Welcome to Election 2017. I'm Teresa Whipple, your host, and we're here tonight with Lynnwood Mayor Nicola Smith. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Before we get started with questions, I wanted to give you an opportunity to just talk a little bit about yourself and your background. You've been in Lynnwood for quite a while.
I have been in Lynnwood for quite a while. Lived in 2 different houses and spent my full career up until being mayor at Edmonds Community College and loved it. Started out with the international students in that program and was their advisor, and then climbed the ladder at the college into leaving the college after 27 years as Dean of Student Services and Success. And I'm also a staunch member of Rotary. Mm-hmm. Rotary is my community club, and so I appreciate being able to give back through Rotary initiatives. And back in 2013, when I got the phone call, someone asking me to run for mayor, I thought, well, let's talk to a few people, and I did. And I had nothing to lose, and it sounded really, really appealing. And after understanding what the job of mayor is, which is the CEO of a city, and I was already in a top administrative position at Edmonds Community College in our second largest public organization, and so moving into mayor, the CEO of the third largest public organization in Lynnwood, didn't seem like a huge leap. And I will tell you, I am so glad I did it, and it has been a marvelous, marvelous time serving Lynnwood in this capacity.
Well, and my next question was going to be, and I can't believe it's been 4 years since you were elected, but what are you thinking about when you think about re-election? Is there some unfinished business for you?
Well, sure there is. I think that we will need to continue to work on our financial sustainability. We have come up with we have a good financial position right now, but the sustainability is something that we'll be needing to work on. The voter approval of the Regional Fire Authority is going to help that conversation for City Council, so I'm looking forward to seeing how creative we can be with that. And then I want to continue to create this inclusive and welcoming culture in our city. And I think that that's really important, and we have more work to do. But we're living in an environment where people are feeling a little anxious and afraid, if you will. And Lynnwood is really, really diverse. And so continuing to build the relationships that we have with our communities is going to be really important to sustain that. And then maintain this momentum with our growth. And it's going to be really important to continue to build upon the foundation that we've already started with light rail coming, because we certainly know that we're going to grow. We're going to change. Change is the only constant that we can rely upon. Little old town Lynnwood is not coming back, and light rail will be here, and we need to manage that growth and not let it manage us and trample us. So there's still a lot of big work to do.
Yeah, and when you talk about Sound Transit, you and I were talking about this before. I think there's been some concerns from cities who are going to be impacted by light rail because Sound Transit did recently announce, that they're about $500 million over budget and about 6 months behind.
Yeah.
And of course, Lynnwood is making a lot of plans around light rail, and some businesses are closing, and there's a lot that's happening, changes. How do you see the city working with Sound Transit, working through these issues as some of these changes come up?
We have been working with Sound Transit side by side. We've had good heart-to-heart conversations with their leadership. I have the CEO's phone number in my cell phone, and we call each other frequently when there are things that are maybe arising where maybe the conversations are not going well. And with this news of the project not being on budget, I guess that's not surprising, and a little late. We are working side by side with Sound Transit furiously, frequently, with regard to that budget, the costs, and the design of our station in Lynnwood. And Sound Transit knows, especially for Lynnwood, it's really important because we're the terminus station, and we're the terminus station for 13 years. Well, now 13 and a half years since it's delayed.
Until it gets extended up into Everett.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And we have one more station coming into Lynnwood. So we've signed a contract, or an ILA, if you will, with Sound Transit in Everett to help them expedite getting up to Everett. 6 months late again, but we'll get there. It's needed. We need this for our future generations. We already have people moving into Lynnwood who are very, very excited to get to their classes at the UW and get to their jobs and live in an affordable city. We've got lots of young families moving up from sort of the Amazon families into Lynnwood because they can't afford to live in Seattle anymore, and light rail is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Certainly.
so we are working in alignment with Sound Transit, and in fact, a team of us is going back to DC in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be talking with the transportation organizations and our legislative representatives with regard to trying to get the federal funding back online for Sound Transit. So we're really making big efforts to try to maintain this project in a way that will eventually serve our community and at very high standards and how we expect. And Sound Transit is saying, we're doing it. We're going to get the rail to Lynnwood.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
believe them.
Okay. If you could point to one thing that you think is going to be the most challenging out of what you're going to be up against, what would that be?
I think many people in Lynnwood who live in Lynnwood have a small town, it's not mentality, but a small town, well, it's a small town mentality.
Yeah.
And change is scary. And so how do you help people come along with the change in a way that they feel safe and that they feel that we are true to our words of honoring our neighborhoods and focusing our growth in our city center boundaries, and get them to be part of that process and give input to what that could look like so that Lynnwood really does become a vibrant place for people to live and work and play. So I think change is going to be the challenging part, and communicating that it's okay, it's safe, we're listening to you, we want to hear your ideas. Come on down.
Right. And,
Yeah.
I think we talked about this probably 4 years ago. And it's always a challenge when you have a city, as you mentioned, that does have so much diversity and so many different languages spoken, and kind of that constant challenge of how do you communicate with those folks. And I know that you've been working on that. Do you have some new initiatives that you're thinking about or continuing to work on?
Well, our website translates, and you can call City Hall, and if you need a translator, we've got that service that is that's available. And we have been building trusted partners. Well, let me just give an example. President Boyer and I co-chaired a committee that we put together called Communities of Color and Police Relations. And we invited the leaders of our different ethnic communities to the table, and the police officers, a group of them, led by our wonderful police chief, Tom Davis. And we came together and we met every other week for 10 months maybe. And we talked about what do police do and what don't they do. And when we did have an unfortunate incident, I called those people around that had been sitting with us around the table and said, this is what's happened. I want you to know, we need you to message this out to your communities in a way that is not alarmist and give them the facts. So I think building the relationships and then using those trusted messengers to take that truth message, not the drama message,
Yeah.
but a message of truth to their communities is going to be very powerful. And then the police department has also started Cops and Clergy.
Yes.
I think you recognize
I've seen that, yeah.
And that has been blossoming and blooming into this wonderful network of faith organizations. And they are learning how to respond and communicate and identify things that might be not quite, maybe their members are not feeling settled, or they're feeling afraid, or something's happened. They are learning how to identify drug behavior and domestic violence and other things that affect the families in our community. So having this huge network now of the faith organizations, we have well over 100 churches in Lynnwood, and many of them represent different communities. So really getting into the foundation, I mean, and building that up with relationship communication strategies, I think it's going to be very powerful. It already has been very powerful.
Okay. Along those lines, when you talk about police and different relationships, I know that Lynnwood, I think, is actually partnering with the City of Edmonds on a social worker that is going to be working with police on reaching out to people who might be in crisis or people who are homeless, that kind of thing. Do you see that as another tool to kind of reach some of those people who might not feel connected?
Absolutely. So we have been beefing up our community health and safety program within our police department, which is actually a coalition of 5 different departments. Community development, they have the code enforcement, the fire department, public works, parks, and police. And together, they can embrace a situation and deal with it swiftly and correctly. But Cole Langdon, who you know well, and our community knows well because he's out there, is the sergeant over that program. And now adding the social worker, we'll be able to identify someone who's in need and bring that person in, and that person should be able to connect them to services very effectively if the person in crises wants it.
Right, and that's always the key, isn't it?
That's the key.
I was going to actually ask a follow-up question about just the general, and this is true in all cities that I've been working with in South Snohomish County, but the increasing number of people who are homeless, who seem to have mental health issues, and I know police struggle with it. People who are just in the area and observe people, they just really don't know what to do. And have you had an opportunity to think more about what some other solutions might be, if there are any, to that?
It's so enormous. It's a regional, state, national crises. We're working closely with the health district. We're working. I brought Lynnwood into being a regional leader and regional model in South County and the rest of the county. So we're working collaboratively, because if I push them one way, they're ending up in Edmonds or Terrace.
Right.
So there's got to be a solution. I don't know what it is. I have community engagement, citizen community engagement hour every Wednesday from 4 to 5. And typically, of the 4 appointments that I have there's 2 or 3 that are just really frustrated with the homeless problem and the opioid problem that we have. And I don't know, maybe it's one-on-one. If I had the magic solution,
No, you would be.
I'd go to heaven.
Yes,
right?
you would. I think everybody
I'd
says
enjoy
that.
it first,
Yes.
but but I think working together and people finally realizing that it's much more effective for the human and for your city budgets if you catch people before they end up in the justice system. And so my goal has always been, how do we put resources towards going upstream and finding those people who are borderline in crises and catching them there and hooking them into services, whatever that might be. That's why I'm very excited that the SROs are going back into the high schools, because we need to have that relationship. If I could bring back the DARE program into our schools, I'd do it in a minute, because it's the police getting in there and building those relationships with kids and our youth that I think is going to be key. So, I don't know what the solution is, but
I wasn't expecting you to tell me what the solution was.
Yeah, but I'll tell you,
it's a tough problem.
Working
for sure.
together is going to make us better, and it is. It's the 3 wicked problems in our communities. It's opioids, the homelessness, and mental illness.
Yeah.
So we did open the detox center in Lynnwood,
Right.
and it's in a neighborhood, and it's going to be fine and great. We've got our community health and safety program. We have everybody trained, the police department and fire trained using Narcan.
Narcan.
And police and fire medics are administering that every day to people. There's this line where if you build services, they will come. And that is kind of happening in Lynnwood right now. And so as we approach people, like I went to lunch with the chief the other day, Tally Thai, one of our favorite restaurants. And there was a young man who was wandering and clearly on drugs. And Chief went up to him and said, "Hey, it looks like you could use some services. Can I hook you into anything? What do you need?" He goes, "Oh, I just came up here on a bus because I heard there was a church that was giving out free food."
Yeah.
"Well, can we help you get some services?" "No, I don't want services." That's a fear with light rail coming too. The businesses are like, if we bring in light rail, what is the safety and security around that station so that people coming up on light rail, they get dumped and stop right there in our city center. And so we need to prepare. We need to prepare for that, and resources need to be put forward towards helping people be well.
Yeah, and kind of related issue is it's a buzzword that everybody's talking about in all the cities I'm aware of, is affordable housing. And I know that you've got some, a big building going up there that's right there in the middle of the city that's going to be addressing some of that. What's on the horizon for Lynnwood in terms of, I think there have been some partnerships, there have been some different things that have gone on, but is there anything in particular you wanted to share?
Well, just that our community development director will say Lynnwood has its share of affordable housing. We have more affordable housing than any city, I think.
Okay.
And that's good. And we certainly want to keep a balance of affordable housing and other types of housing, multifamily, and of course Sheg's going in, and that's senior affordable housing. There are several other units going up. We have, remember the big fire we had, the reserve burned down? 300 plus senior units, but they're going to rebuild. They're rebuilding, and so we'll have, our population is going to look a little older and a little younger with the new families coming in and the seniors having a place where they can be, where they can afford to live and get around and be healthy. And what a coup that Snohomish County Senior Services is moving into our Whites building. Right. Heartbroken that Whites is going.
I know. Many people were, but that'll be
but
exciting.
Homage is there, and I just think those services to support our seniors is just going to be brilliant.
Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the Regional Fire Authority. And, there were some people who, and I remember this happened in Edmonds too, when I first started covering Edmonds, and there was a lot of concern about giving up the Edmonds Fire Department and having it be part of Fire District 1. And I know there was some of that was discussed in the, transition with the Regional Fire Authority. Are you feeling overall that it's going to be good for the citizens, and why is that?
Yes. And I'm not the only mayor who has felt that. This conversation has been going on for 28 years, I hear. So every mayor before me and council have tried to come to where we have finally come to, and we are forming the RFA, the up-and-coming South Snohomish County Fire and Rescue.
That's a mouthful. I'll try to get used to that
title. And so what we need to remember is that it is a consolidation of Fire District 1 and the Lynnwood Fire Department. It is a brand-new government organization that we are putting together. The 3 contract cities will remain as contract cities, but I wanted to make sure that in the bylaws and the policies that we're putting together for this new organization, that those 3 cities can annex in, if you will, just by a vote of their people, so they don't have to go out countywide to come in. So it makes sense. I have talked about regionalization since I got here, in that you don't know when you leave Lynnwood and get into Montlake Terrace unless you know that. But
yes, it's very confusing.
It's really South County. We need to act as a growing regional place where people can count on consistent and efficient services, no matter where they live. And so, putting together the fire staff and the fire departments will create some efficiencies. All of the staff will be trained equally so that everybody will be responding and understand. It's kind of like playing football. If you're coming from whatever, the Cougars, and I'm on the Huskies, because I'm going to be on the Huskies, and we're both quarterbacks, if we are told to go play together, I don't know your play set. You don't know my play set either, necessarily. I mean, you kind of do because it's football. Same with fire. You know what you're supposed to do because you're trained as a professional firefighter or a medic. But it is better, I think, for our citizens and our people who find themselves in a critical situation, that they have people responding to them in an efficient and effective way where they all know what they're supposed to do. So I am delighted that I was able to first hire a fire chief who knew how to put this together. And council said, Chief Cockrum, you need to bring us to a T in the road. Either we're going to continue and examine whether we want to do the RFA, or we stop it, and we stop it for a long time in Lynnwood and stop the conversation. He brought it to that T, and council said, let's go forward and explore it. We explored and had a planning committee with lawyers and everybody. We've been working on that for 10 months, and it's good. It's good. So it was Lynnwood voters did vote. We were a little worried that Snohomish County voters would overvote, Lynnwood.
Yeah.
But Lynnwood voters voted for it, and I think that they're going to be pleased.
Okay.
Yeah, with the service.
Very good. And if you could point to one thing that you're most proud of in your 4 years as mayor, what would that be?
Well, I want to talk about finances.
Okay. We haven't talked about that yet.
No. So when we were together back in 2013, I brought forward my Refresh and Reset campaign platform. And there were 3 things in that platform that I said I wanted to start addressing. One was fiscal stewardship. The other was city services. And the third was professional leadership and civility coming into the city organization. And today, in this campaign, we're hearing people saying the sky is falling, the finances are in crises. We're stealing from Peter and Paul to do something to balance the budget. So it's not really a balanced budget. But let me tell you, we got a clean state audit for 2016. That has not happened since 2008. We just received the award from the Government Financial Officers Association. It is the most highly recognized form of recognition for a city with regard to your financial policies, how you communicate and how transparent you are with your budget, your presentation of your budget materials, which we have. We have a 522-page budget book for the first time in a long time on our website. And the city finances have never before been able to even apply for this grant. And in a short 3.5 years, clean audit, that award, we went from a single, an A+ bond rating to a double A+ bond rating. You don't get that unless you can prove to people that you have a bright, sustainable future and able to meet your obligations. And then we changed up the financial policies a little bit, working with the Council of Finance Committee. And lo and behold, MRSC, the Municipal Research and Service Center that serves all cities with legal services and other things, and one of them is training how to do budgets as an elected. They picked Lynnwood as one of the top 3 best practice cities in our population range. Our finances are okay. Yes, we have more work to do to be sustainable into the future, but you don't get all of these recognitions and acknowledgments if the sky's falling and your budget is not good. So I am really, really proud of the staff and really happy that City Council actually put forward a process of budgeting for outcomes. It was a huge amount of work, and we call it BFO Light. One of the most recognized city finance guys is Mike Bailey. He works in Redmond, and he came and did consulting for us about 3 years ago now, I think. And he started teaching us how to do that. Well, it's taken him, one of the top financial city guys in the state, 8 years to get Redmond kind of doing it really well. Okay. So I am really, really pleased with how we have unraveled some of the budget, made it transparent, and been able to provide best practices and get money back into the community that they deserve.
Okay, that's great. That's a wonderful accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you an opportunity now to directly address the voters and tell them why they should vote to reelect you as mayor of the City of Lynnwood. So go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. Hi there, voters. I have had a fabulous time being the mayor of Lynnwood. And many people look at me and you're nuts. Why do you even like that job? Well, I'll tell you, I would recommend this to anybody who is really committed to doing servant leadership, serving the public, being a solution provider, engaging people in healthy and trusting relationships. And I feel like I have made great strides with the city, including inheriting a rather disillusioned staff when I got there. There's over 500 people who work in the City of Lynnwood, and they have now made this big turnaround. We have done organizational culture change so that we now have a culture of customer service and civility and respect. And it's exciting to see these people come to work every day joyfully, wanting to serve you, wanting to serve our community in the best possible way. And we have done a lot of work with regard to diversity. The past Diversity Commission left us with the advice that we really needed to increase our diverse workforce. And I was crunching the numbers the other day, and in these past 3 years, with all of our different programs and being a place where people want to work, they feel safe and included, I have raised the diversity in our workforce by 78%. And I'm really, really happy that so many people want to come and work in Lynnwood. I'm happy now that there are so many people who come to my office and say, how can I help? I want to be involved. I want to volunteer. And the community engagement and the enthusiasm that people are expressing now, being a part of Lynnwood, is gratifying. And so I want to just thank you for voting me into this position 4 years ago. I want to maintain the momentum that we have started, which we've already talked about, with growth and inclusion and safety and our finances. And I think a change of leadership for the city right now is probably not the best idea. So please, I implore you to go get the facts yourself as we move through this season. Call the finance director if you have questions about finances. Call our HR director if you have questions about working for the city. Come to my office. Come and visit me. I'm still mayor. I can still welcome you and get you to a source of information so that you are making a wise and appropriate vote. So good luck to all of us during this season. And
thank you so much for coming in. It was really great to see you again.
Thank you
and
so much.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa.